I just I just streamed for 40 minutes and realized my audio wasn't getting picked up through my microphone. Nah, bro. That's different. That's crazy. I'm gonna show y'all how to get your mixes to an industry standard. Like I'm literally gonna show you some industry secrets. You don't need any $1,000 equipment. You don't need any $1,000 of plugins. You don't need you don't need really anything but FL Studio and default plugins. What I will say you need is good drum sounds. The sounds you choose is the biggest part. It's gonna be very important going in. So, as you see, all these mixers are turned down so low. They're not loud at all. If you had your drums at a normal sound going into the mixer, it would sound really quiet going in. Like, I'm just gonna turn this down to 19. So you hear how quiet that is? Now let's go to hear how loud this is when it's turned down this low. I'll also show you this. If you want to get your mix to an industry standard or an industry sound, you can't do what everyone else does. If 1,000 people on YouTube who aren't having any emotion or anything like going for them, telling you to do something, and then the sound you get is like, okay, it's not taking you anywhere, then you need to do something different.
How do you know what's inside you unless you test yourself? Don't do one push-up, do 100. Don't run 1 mile, run a marathon. Don't have one family, have a second family all the way across the country. Don't just have a second family, have a third family in Santa Fe with an alternative lifestyle. Don't spend any time with the first 2 families. Make a commitment to family number 3 and double down by announcing it at his war hero father's retirement party. Don't go to the funeral, because remember, you got 2 other families to deal with and a marathon to train for. Don't just let Kenneth walk out of your life. Take his life from him. Don't just go to jail. Go to death row by killing the 2 other families. Don't just let anyone have their closure by apologizing. Send a message that you're not afraid of hell. Nike. You may not notice, but our full name is Nike.
This is what changed my sound. I'm going to show you what changed everything for me. I learned that if you just have everything going into the mixer normally, like as I showed you before in the mixer, you see how quiet this is? But I also have this turned down super low. So like let me have it at normal volume. So the difference between this and this, there's a world of a difference, but it's hard to tell. The way you go about it doesn't make sense at first because you would think clipping is bad, right? But you're supposed to clip everything going into the mixer and turn it down. I felt like my first explanation wasn't good enough. If I told you all the instruments needed to go into the mixer at a good volume with a strong signal, it has headroom, everything sound good, you would think, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I get what you mean. This is where the industry secret comes in. That's what everyone does to reach a certain standard institutions have agreed upon. If we're talking about sound, we're gonna need to be breaking some of their rules. So we're gonna be clipping. Usually we're told clipping's bad. It's not gonna sound good. And they're right if you have everything usually how it's supposed to be turned up. But this is where it gets a little bit confusing for some people. But I'm gonna show you. This is where the secret comes in. I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna show you, but nothing clipping. But the things we're taught in school, what everyone does, is like have a good signal into the mixture, have headroom. This is the normal, like what we're usually taught. And also, just so you believe me, I have nothing on here, like no plugins, nothing. Everything's turned down. I have one EQ on the melody in order to make room for the 808 because the 808 wasn't mixing at first. Like it didn't sound good. They were clashing too much in the low end. So again, this is with nothing clipping going into the mixer. Everything just had a good volume going in. This was also all these were turned up. This was before I turned all these down and I consolidated it. So here, listen to the sound. All right, this is with everything clipping. And when I mean clipping, this is what I mean. You see how this is turned all the way up, and this boost right here, where you have pre-computed effects, this boost, I had this all the way up for the hi-hat, all the way up for the 808. There's no exception for any of these. Everything is literally being clipped going into the mixer, and that's why all this is so quiet. All this is so low. So you can still add compressors, you can still add your reverbs, you can still add your EQs, all that stuff. But what you gotta do in order to get a thick sound is make it super loud going into the mixer. Listen to the hi-hats, listen to the snares, the thickness, the loudness of them. Also listen to the thickness and the loudness of the 808. It's going to be subtle to an untrained ear. To the trained ear, they'll hear it. And last remark I want to make about this one is that the melody wasn't clipping for this part, for this one. I clipped it on this one. I wanted to show you the differences in the melodies when you do this, because you could do it for any genre. You could do it for most instruments, most melodies. You could do it with anything. It makes it sound thicker. Now let's go into this. Just the drums clipping again on this one. Versus this one with nothing clipping going into the mixer. You guys hear that snare? The whole beat in general just sounds thinner, it sounds weaker. Now we're getting some thickness. We're getting closer to that industry sound. Now this has no limiters, it has no maximus, no compressors, no reverb, nothing. It could sound way better if I started adding to the harmonics of the beat, but I have not done any of that yet. This is purely for example. Then we have this one where the melody is now clipping, and hopefully you can hear the thickness and the warmth between the top one and the second one. The top one, the melody sounds a little thinner. This one, the melody sounds a little thicker. Nobody really does this or teaches this. Uh, it's gate kept, or people just don't know it and they teach bad. They teach the wrong thing. Yo, so that's some advice for all you producers, all you engineers, all you artists. Cause if you're mixing, you should try this on your mixes. When you're making the beat, you don't have to do this, but when you start mixing, you should start thinking about this stuff. When I'm making the beats, because I'm a producer, I don't start clipping everything. I don't start clipping until I'm already done with the whole beat. Everything's already been made, everything's placed. It's exactly how I want it. Then we start going into like clipping, turning everything up, adding harmonics, taking out what we don't like, adding what we like. Hopefully you learned something from this. If you did, please like, please subscribe. I'll catch y'all later in the next one.